Hi everyone, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Anna, and you're listening to We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, a podcast hosted by us, a married couple with an endless love for TV.
Whether you're looking for a new show to binge or wanting to revisit an old classic, let us be your guide through the infinite list of TV shows.
So come join us every Friday as we discuss the pilot for a TV show while also sharing personal stories that parallel the storylines.
We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, where your new favorite show is just one click away. Hello everyone, welcome back to our pod.
Welcome. Hello. I don't know.
You all right?
It's cold and
I know.
It's dreary and I love it, but it just makes me want to snuggle and get in bed, so it's hard being up, and we've both been doing a lot.
Yeah.
Like, you worked. Yesterday was your hard day, double shift, and then yesterday a friend had posted her son was trying to make money, and I was needing to clean out the garage, and he offered to help. I just needed to pull stuff out that he was going to take to the dump, and he just picked everything up, so we're recording. But I literally pulled out so much stuff from the garage: empty boxes, old promo items, trash. I mean, and he picked it all up, so I'm very grateful to him, and got the side room in the garage looking pretty decent.
Yeah.
Has work to do, but it's looking much better. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm tired. You're tired, but we're doing the pod.
We're doing the pod, and I couldn't be more excited for this episode. I couldn't be more excited. In general, I've really this has been a great month of shows, and we're only two weeks in, but I mean it's a great month, and we have a lot to talk about. So when we've talked about this before, when we come up with our themes, a lot of times you come up with the themes, like that's kind of your niche. You're not your niche. That's what you're very good at.
I'm good at a theme.
And you, with a party, with anything, you know how to come up with a theme. Sometimes they're collaborative. Like, we kind of like start at one point, and then that will kind of like
it'll
evolve
shift
into something else. Every now and then I come up with the theme. I think I came up with this month's theme.
Okay.
But the reason why I came up with this theme was because I wanted an excuse to do the show. To do the show that we're doing today, because I was just like, it has been my favorite show of the year. It's been honestly one of my favorite shows that has come out in the last few years. I have just fallen in love with it. I don't think anybody is surprised if they have already seen the title of this episode. But we are doing It, Welcome to Derry today.
Such a banger.
And
so good.
Words cannot describe how much I loved this show, how excited I was for this show, how excited I am anytime there's any mention or story of Pennywise, Derry, just in general.
Stephen
King in general. It's been a big year for Stephen King. For his adaptations, there have been a lot of great shows and a lot of great movies that have come out this year. You got The Long Walk, you got Running Man,
so good,
The Institute. You have, some others I'm sure that I'm not thinking about. And yeah, it's been a good year for Stephen King, for good old Mr. King. And I'm really excited about this one. I have such a long history with it in general, with the 1990 miniseries, the novel, the films that came out in 2017 and 2019, and then now Welcome to Derry. It just seems like every few years I get my dose of it and
of Pennywise.
And I'm really excited. So let's just go ahead, and Anna's going to do what she always does and give us some episode and series information.
All right. It, Welcome to Derry, the pilot. It, Welcome to Derry is an American horror series that premiered on HBO on October 26, 2025, and currently has 8 episodes. The series is loosely based on the 1986 hit novel It by Stephen King and serves as a prequel to the 2017 and 2019 films It, Chapter 1 and 2. The series was developed by Andy and Barbara Muschietti and Jason Fuchs.
Yeah.
I'll start over.
It could be. No, it's Fuchs. It's
Fuchs.
Yeah.
The series was developed by Andy and Barbara Muschietti and Jason Fuchs. I don't know how to say that without sounding like a curse word.
Without saying
Exactly. Beep. Andy Muschietti co-wrote and directed It Chapter 1 and 2, and his sister Barbara was a producer for the films. Fuchs joined the duo on It Chapter 2 as a co-writer and producer. Welcome to Derry takes place in the infamous fictional town of Derry, Maine. Season 1 takes place in 1962, 27 years before the events of It Chapter 1. Shortly after a string of children disappear, a new family moves to town and become entangled in the town's dark past. The series cast includes Taylor Page as Charlotte Hanlon, wife of Leroy and mother of Will, who recently moved to Derry. Charlotte is the first to notice something is off about the people of Derry. Jovan Adepo as Leroy Hanlon, a fearless U.S. Air Force major who has been transferred to the Derry Air Force Base. James Remar as Lieutenant Francis Shaw, Leroy's superior, and who is searching for a weapon to end the Cold War. Blake Cameron James as Will Hanlon, Leroy and Charlotte's son, and a science enthusiast who is having difficulty adjusting to life in Derry. Will is the future father of Mike Hanlon, a main character in It Chapter 1 and 2. Stephen Ryder as Hank Grogan, the projectionist for the local movie theater and Ronnie's dad. Amanda Christine as Ronnie Grogan, Hank's daughter. Clara Stack as Lily Bainbridge, a young girl who is grieving the loss of her father, dealing with an absent mother, and has recently become an outcast at school after being committed to the Juniper Hills Asylum. Matilda Lawler as Marge Truman, Lily's best friend, who at first ignores Lily's problems due to her desperately wanting to fit in with the popular girls. Arian S. Cartaya as Rich Santos, a Cuban-American boy who befriends Will and has a crush on Marge, our little Tootie.
I know.
Chris Chalk as Dick Halloran, a private with psychic abilities. You may remember this character from The Shining and Dr. Sleep, that was played by Scatman Crothers.
Yes.
Peter Outerbridge as Clint Bowers, the town sheriff and future grandfather of Henry Bowers, the secondary antagonist in It Chapter 1 and 2. Madeline Stowe as Ingrid Kirsch. If you're familiar with the story of It, that should also ring a bell. She was the head housekeeper at Juniper Hills who befriends Lily. And of course, Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise, also known as It, an evil shape-shifting creature that feeds on fears and awakens every 27 years to wreak havoc on the people of Derry. Welcome to Derry immediately received positive reviews and is now one of the most popular series on TV right now. The series has inspired hundreds of memes and clips, particularly pertaining to the show's theme song, A Smile and a Ribbon by Patience and Prudence. The pilot for Welcome to Derry garnered 5.7 million views in 3 days, becoming the third most watched debut behind House of Dragon and The Last of Us. Although it is likely the series will be renewed for a second season, as of today, HBO has not confirmed anything just yet. You can currently watch the series on HBO Max, and I would just like to personally say, if HBO Max does not renew this for a second season, I am vigorously protesting and may cancel my subscription.
Oh, shit.
Yep. I'm serious.
Just like lay down the law on this.
I know. HBO, you better be listening.
I mean, there's such a hype behind it, and I feel like it's so well deserved because
with so many views, I just can't imagine they wouldn't. Like, what would they be thinking?
And I mean, Andy and Barbara Muschietti already said that they have season 2 and season 3 already written out. Like, it's going to be every cycle. It's easy when you kind of when it's kind of the layout of it, where it's every 27 years, you can just kind of be like, oh, well, what was going on in the world during this time? Yeah. And it's like, oh, what threat was happening in the world at this time? There was always a threat. There was always something going on. And I think going back to 1935 is what 27 years back would be. Mm-hmm. So that would be the Great Depression. That would be kind of you're in between the world wars. There's a lot going on. And in the 1908, I don't know what was going on in the world in 1908. So anyway, so were you familiar with it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think that wasn't one of the Stephen King books that I read. So I know I've talked about that. And in fact, I was talking to my brother about it like just recently. I think when we visited for Christmas, I was telling him about the show because he loved Stephen King when we were younger, that whenever he got a book, I would get it.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, when my brother was in high school, I was 10 years younger than him. So
Right.
I was like reading Stephen King books when I was like 6, 8 years old. And people might think that's crazy, but my mom was just a big believer in like, she's reading. It's kind of like the kids reading Harry Potter back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Like no one was questioning what was in it. But so I had read like Cujo, Christine, Carrie. I had read all of those. And I will also probably admit, or I will admit, that I think I was just reading them. Like I wasn't really totally absorbing, digesting what was technically happening in these stories. I kind of felt like they were fantasy. I didn't see them necessarily as horror at the time at my age. So I think that's also why my mom didn't really object to it. Cause well, one, I don't think she probably knew what they were about, to be honest, but yeah, so I totally remember having those books and having the hard copies of those paperbacks for a long time, and till my mom probably sold them in a garage sale or something. But then I do remember the miniseries coming out back, was it the 90s?
1990.
Because back, and I think you and I were talking that was when networks would hire their current stars or who was kind of like the it person at the moment. Because I remember it was like John Ritter, and he was so popular coming off of like Three's Company, and he was, really in, the kind of TV world. And then I remember Annette O'Toole thinking she was just so beautiful. She had been in Superman 3 as Lana Lang, of course. And then
Harry Anderson.
But also you just got it out of my head. 48 Hours with Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte. I think that had just come out. She played Nick Nolte's girlfriend, and I just remember her in that movie, and I thought she was just truly beautiful in that movie. She was the girlfriend, and then Tim Reed was in it.
I love him.
I think you said Harry Anderson from Night Court.
Richard Mazer.
Richard Mazer, of course, you knew him. So, and then all the kids who, this was maybe one of their first things, but now looking at them, a couple of them have gone on.
Seth Green, one of his early, this was post Can't Buy Me Love, but he had been in stuff, but like this was his first kind of like big role. And then Jonathan Brandis, who R.I.P. was like one of the it boys of the 90s and of Teen Beat, Tiger Beat, all of those magazines. Ladybug, Sequest, I think that was the name of the show.
Sequest DSV.
And he tragically took his own life, I think in 2001. I think that was when. And then future Scream Queen Emily Perkins, who played young Beverly Marsh, who is a dead ringer for Annette O'Toole. They did such a good job with casting for that. She stars in one of my all-time favorite horror movies, Ginger Snaps, and she's been in a bunch of other stuff, but that's what I know. That's what I mostly know her from. And
then of course there was Tim Curry, who was like famous for Rocky Horror Picture Show. That was like all high school. You would go to the midnight movie to see that. So yes, this was something I for sure knew about, had seen that miniseries. And when you and I got together and we learned that they were doing, It Chapter 1 and 2, we were both like, all right, we're in. And then we even have a funny story about that. We tried to see it like 3 times.
Chapter 2.
Chapter 2 was like, the fire alarm went off at the movie theater, and then I don't know what happened the second time.
There was a second time where we had to cancel, and then finally a third time we finally went and saw it.
Yeah,
we got to watch it in its entirety. And that's funny. I forgot about that.
I remember the fire alarm going off, and they were like, "We're not reopening, so you got to go." They were offering refunds, but that was when we were AMC like stubs, and we paid our monthly fee. But so this has been like part of my Stephen King for sure has been part
definitely.
of my growing up.
Yeah.
I mean, just movies, books, everything.
So when the miniseries came out, I was quite young, but I remember my mom watching it. I remember watching glimpses of it and obviously not really understanding what was going on. It's like a 3-hour, it's a 2-parter, but it's like a 3-hour movie. And I remember like watching bits and pieces of it, not really understanding what was going on, but like kind of doing like probably like a little head tilt and being like, what's that? My mom's like, this is going to scare you. If Child's Play scared you, this is going to scare you. And so my mom was like, get out of here. But I remember even as a young child, everyone talking about this miniseries and everyone talking about, oh, did you like it? Did you like the first part better when they were kids, or did you like the second part better when they were adults? Like there was that big thing because part one, even with the films, like part one when they were kids is always favored, and then the second part when they're adults is always a little lackluster. That was always kind of the attitude. Even with the films, it was kind of the same. My theory is that no one really cares to see adults in danger
and
scared of something they know isn't real. And even though it is real, I don't know. It's confusing.
It's a hard thing to describe. That your fear to you is real,
right? And
so I think that's a big struggle even today. Right. Like when people talk about anxiety or stress, like whatever it is, we're quick to go, oh, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, that's not real. I think that's kind of the whole concept.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, maybe not the whole concept,
it's
but
part of it.
Yes.
So I'd always heard of it, and so a little later in life, further into my childhood, I started getting into horror movies and specifically horror novels because I was a big reader when I was a kid. And my mom also had a bunch of Stephen King books, and my mom really just cared that we read. I mean, like that was always her concern. I mean, obviously she wasn't gonna, let us read like full on smut, but like my mom was very much like horror, thriller. My mom was a big like John Grisham. She had a lot of those books, like crime, drama type stuff. And I remember it's funny that you specifically said what I always jokingly referred to as the 3 C's, because I remember I read Cujo, Carrie, and Christine.
Oh, yeah.
Those are like the first 3 that I remember. I think Carrie, I'm almost positive Carrie was the first one that I read. And then Cujo and Christine kind of followed. But I remember reading Carrie and thinking like, oh my God, is this what high school is going to be like? This sucks. I was just like, they're so mean and they're so awful. And yeah, I started watching more of his movies and I started getting more into horror. And then I went over to one of my friend's house for a sleepover, and the miniseries had just been released on VHS.
Oh, okay.
And it was you had to get the 2 VHSs. They came separate. And
Did
the
they
double
cost
pack,
separate prices?
I don't know.
Okay, I don't remember.
And I had never fully watched it, but it was almost this like thing I'd always heard of, but I'd never seen it. It was one of those things, and especially back long before the internet and before all of the you can just type in the title of a movie, and we didn't have that back then. So basically, like, it was always this like almost like an enigma to me because I'd never seen it in its entirety. I didn't really know what it was about. But I'd always heard of it. I always heard of Tim Curry playing Pennywise and the Sewers and Georgie, and I'd always heard of these like certain things, the Red Balloon. Like I'd always heard of certain things, but I never actually watched it. So they started watching it. I started watching it, and I just fell in love with it. Like I don't know. Maybe it was because I was a kid. Maybe it was because just the idea of because I was actually close to these kids' ages.
Oh, yeah.
Like the characters' ages when I first watched. I was probably like 10 or 11. And yeah, I was probably about 10 or 11. And I was just enamored with it. I just fell in love with it. I became obsessed with it. Like I immediately watched it at my friend's house. And then I went to the video store right after that, like that following weekend, and I watched it again. And I found the book at the library, and if y'all have never seen the novel before, it is a thick old book, and
you have it still, right?
I have it somewhere about,
it's
and yeah, I have it somewhere. I think you had a copy of it, and I had a copy of it, and I think like it exists somewhere in this house. I always say like I started reading it when I was probably about 11 or 12 maybe, it accelerated my reading abilities. Like it was such an event of a book, and there was so much in it that was like I was way too young to be reading, but like I got it. And I think that was when I started like absorbing things that I was reading. I started understanding the things that I was reading, not just like you said, just reading stuff and being like, oh, this is what's happening. I'm not really absorbing like the
context,
the context and how heavy it is. And so I read the book, and I once again just fell in love with it. I was obsessed with it, and the idea of just kind of this thing that only kids can see, and it's a lot more complicated in the book, but they make it a lot more kind of simple in the movies, where like you can only kids can see it. That's not really true. That's just kind of what they do in the movies. Because obviously when they're adults, they can still see it. So like, that doesn't completely hold up. But like the whole idea that this town is kind of like influenced by it and kind of being controlled by it, and just this whole town is just like in this almost like, and in the series, and in Welcome to Derry, they kind of make it more literal that they're just kind of in this dome almost.
Oh,
and
yeah,
they're
like, all in on it.
And it's almost like the town like kind of knows what it is, and it's almost like, oh, well, this is like, it's almost like a sacrifice. They're sacrificing the kids to this thing, not intentionally, but like that's why there's a lot of like they look the other way at a lot of stuff, and they don't acknowledge things. And that's also kind of like a remark on our society, but like, it's much deeper than that. But like I just loved every aspect of it, and also the coming of age aspect of it, and the whole Ben and Beverly thing, the first time you fall in love, the first time you get a crush on someone, being the new kid, being afraid of different things. And like when you're a kid, like everything is just so heightened, and you're experiencing all these things for the first time, and you don't know how to. And when you try to explain it to your parents, they're just like, yeah, you're a kid, like this is gonna go.
Just wait.
This is gonna go away at some point, and you're gonna realize like how scary this world is, and all of that stuff. And then it becoming a feature-length film was discussed for a very long time, and this writer had taken over, this director had taken it over, and then finally out of nowhere they're like, the trailer's out for the new It. And I'm just like, I remember like being so excited, and like people like knowing how much I love It, people were like texting me about it and like writing on like my Facebook page about it, like, and people were like, have you seen this? And I'm like, I remember I was in the middle of working a lunch shift, and Kevin let me walk off the line so I can watch the It trailer because I was so excited about it.
Aww.
And of course, like, Finn Wolfhard was in it, and he was just kind of coming off of like Stranger Things, and he was kind of like the big
It guy.
He was the big like kind of child star of the time, and just being so excited. And I remember going to see it in theaters. I had broken my foot, and I remember I was not working at the time, and for me, it was like the perfect time to go see the movie, because I'm like, well, we're not doing anything. And I remember going to see it. I'm in my boot, and I'm trying to hobble up the movie theater. And I remember Nick and Matt Dispenza was with us, and we all met. And my mom was with us, and we all met at.
Was that at Celebrity?
We all we were somewhere.
AMC?
I think we were at AMC because we ate at Walk-Ons before.
Oh, we did. Or did we go to Movie Tavern?
I think we maybe went to Movie Tavern.
Yeah,
and,
that had to have been Movie Tavern, because, we did go to Walk-Ons.
And I just remember, like, Nick came into town just to watch It with me.
It was. It was very sweet. That was, I think, the first time I'd met him. Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, he is also a big fan of Welcome to Derry. We had been texting about it, and I just texted him today, letting him know that we're doing this for our podcast, and let him know the date, and so like I think
Nick.
I think this is just one of those things that I'm just glad that the story is continuing to be told, and that they were able to do it in such a way that made it kind of the same vibe as the films, but
I like how we have more context now. So mind you, I didn't read the book.
Yeah.
So I think why I liked Welcome to Derry is you kind of got more than what the miniseries and the two movies gave you if you hadn't read the books. I don't know if the book goes into all of this detail that Welcome to Derry
Kind
does.
of, yeah.
And then who knows what's coming with season 2 and 3 if those come out. Like, do they go back to even the early 1900s? So it'll be really interesting to see how all of that develops and what more of the story are they going to give us to the, the history of Pennywise and it. So I'm excited.
Very exciting. Okay, so we talked about the miniseries. We talked about it in general. So let's just talk about Stephen King, because he is, I mean, I don't know if there is a more famous author than Stephen King. I mean, I'm sure that there are, but like, I mean, I don't know. In my world, Stephen King is the most popular author of all time. I mean, like, he just, when you look at the list of all the things he's written, you're just like, you are the reason why horror is what it is now. I mean,
for sure.
I think that if it weren't for Stephen King, horror would be very different, and maybe not in a bad way, but I mean, like, definitely not a world I want to live in where Stephen King doesn't exist.
Okay.
So, I mean, he's written so many books. He has had so many of his works adapted. Do you have any, like, off the top of your head, do you have any, like, books that you remember really liking? Did you read enough to kind of have favorites of Stephen King?
Well, the ones that I rattled off, that I read that were from my brother, Carrie, Christine, Cujo, were obviously early introductions to Stephen King. But then, all of course, the movies, and then things like Running Man, the original, the OG with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Stand By Me, of course, as you know, is one of my all-time favorite movies, which sadly, of course, was directed by Rob Reiner, who has recently passed away. But that was so into my love of his work. It was my senior quote came from that movie. So that's how much I've loved Stephen King my whole life. So probably those. Misery was one of my other favorites. One that I've never really seen, and I was going to ask if we could watch it one day, would be Dolores Claiborne.
Oh my God!
Is that that's Stephen King, right?
I love that movie. It's like Gerald's Game. It's very messed up.
Yes.
It's very messed up, and it's very sad. And that was one of the books that my mom had, and she also used to watch the movie all the time. Kathy Bates and Jennifer Jason Leigh are top tier. Like, they are so good in that movie.
And I've always wanted to see it.
I just got really excited.
No, I don't know why I never saw it.
Good,
and I'm like, I mean, I freaking love Kathy Bates and Jennifer Jason Leigh. So I was always like, why didn't I see this? And I think it might have fallen into that whole, like, I'm just going to use this as an example, like an Aaron Brockovich, where everyone's like, Dolores Claiborne.
Yeah.
Like, why is that the name of a movie? But of course it's like this amazing movie, but you just missed it because it had a really bad name, which leads me to, of course, one of my all-time favorite movies and everyone's all-time favorite movies, Shawshank Redemption.
It's number one on IMDb. Yeah. It's been number one on IMDb since the site started. I mean, it's the most beloved. It's higher ranked than The Godfather. It is higher ranked than the Star Wars movies.
Yeah,
it is the greatest. It is the greatest film ever made. I mean,
like I said, it was just a movie that initially suffered because it had a really oddball name, but over time, thankfully, people found it, loved it, spread the word, and it is probably, obviously, one of the most famous, if not the most famous movies of all time. And again, created by our fave Stephen King. So
and it's
all of those.
It's featured in different seasons, which is one of my favorite. He has like novels, and he has like these novels that have like short stories in them, and then he has the ones that have novellas in them, which are somewhere in between a short story and a novel.
Yeah.
Different seasons is a banger because it has Shawshank Redemption, The Body, which is Stand By Me, and At Pupil, which are two amazing novellas that they adapted into 3 amazing films. I don't remember what the fourth one was because it wasn't adapted to anything, but that's
one of the ones that I will say
list.
recently that I didn't think held up very well over time that was readapted was Firestarter. The most recent one, I don't remember the Drew Barrymore one very well. I know I saw it, but I don't really.
Also boring.
Also boring. It was just a hard one to get into. It
Yeah.
it wasn't that like amazing. And then
That's partially who 11 is based off of.
yeah. And so this one, the most recent one, I think we both were left like, okay, they didn't really need to redo that movie.
They didn't. It was just kind of that era where it had done really well, and so they were like, "Oh, well, let's just adapt them." And they did the Pet Sematary remake, which was pretty bad, and some others that I don't remember. But like
my other fave, Thinner.
Oh, Thinner is such a banger.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my coworkers has recently started getting into horror movies, and she's the one. I'm the person that she'll ask a lot, like, oh, well, I watched this movie, and what'd you think of this movie, and would you recommend like this subgenre? And I always have like a list of movies to tell her, but she had just watched Dreamcatcher. And I love the novel. I loved the movie. I don't know why people didn't like the movie, but I don't know. Like I don't know. Like I don't know why people don't appreciate when movies lean into the absurdity, like Thinner did. And like Dreamcatcher did, but like, I was like, oh, you want an unhinged Stephen King movie? You need to watch Thinner. Like that movie is fucking bonkers. So is The Dark Half. Those are two like completely bonkers, but they're great movies. But they just go off the wall. Yeah, I have so many favorite Stephen King stuff. I'll say some of the books. Obviously, It is one of them. That's the first. I don't know if I've ever read a novel longer than that. I don't know if I will ever read a novel longer than that. That was a journey. There's so much to it. Carrie was, I think, the first Stephen King book that I read, and I really loved it just because, like, we've all been, most of us have all been bullied. We've all been outcasted, and maybe not murder them, but, there's always a part of us that's just like, oh, if I would have those powers, like, I would get back at the people who picked on me, and just the whole, like, religious aspect of it, and, like, the mom, and just the dynamics between all of the characters. It's such
and then even the ones that were nice then turned as well. Like that's a whole nother dynamic of even someone you can trust, like then you can't trust.
Right.
So like that was a whole nother thing too.
I remember reading, I was in high school when I read The Long Walk. And
so good.
And the movie was absolutely amazing and outstanding. I remember reading The Long Walk, and it was also about teenagers and teenage boys, and I read it when I was a teenager, and I'm also a boy. So it was very like it was very relatable. It was very interesting. I remember it was the first book to kind of like stick with me. Like I was having dreams about it. It was the first book that really kind of like had a really big effect on me because the idea of it in general was just very like kind of disturbing, and Hunger Games was far from being created, so like this was kind of like the original Hunger Games for me at least, and I just kind of fell in love with that book, and it's so good. I also have The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, which is not a horror, it's drama. I surprisingly, my favorite Stephen King stuff isn't always horror. A lot of it is drama, like Shawshank and Stand By Me, and The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. It's just about a girl who gets lost in the woods, and her favorite baseball player is Tom Gordon, and all she has is a ham radio. All she has is like a little portable radio, and she's just trying to make her way. It's a very short, it's like a 200-page novel or something like that. And I remember I read it when I lived in Florida, and I was reading a lot when I lived in Florida, and I just remember just really liking it, and it being a book that like it made me cry, and it was just very like emotional. It was another one that like I was having dreams about while I was reading it, and it just had like a really big impact on me. It's not beloved by the fans, like people are just kind of like it's a whatever novel, but I loved it. Like I just thought it was so good. Then there's the Dark Tower series. Now Dark Tower series is this whole other thing. I'm not going to get into it. I love the first three novels in the Dark Tower series. That's its whole other podcast. If they ever make a Dark Tower series, a TV series, we'll talk about it then. And then lastly, for the books, I have 4 Past Midnight, which is 4 novellas. And my favorite stories were The Langoliers. That was the one where they're at the airport. And it was a different type of time traveling. Like it was a different type of, we're not like, let's just say that like you and I go a week into the past. We're not going to see the people that we know. We're not going to like see the events. It's like that already happened. Like it's all empty. It's all vacant. There's no life. We're just seeing like the structures of everything. And it was just a really interesting time travel idea. It's hard to explain, but like, it was, and then the TV movie that was made was so cheesy, but it was so good. I think David Morse was in it.
Oh, okay.
And I can't remember his name. I'm gonna try to remember. He was the guy. Is it Bronson Pinchot? I think it was Bronson Pinchot. Yeah. And Patricia Wettig, and like a bunch of random people were in it. It's a really cheesy but really good movie. And then there's The Library Policeman, which is one of my favorite novellas because it was kind of like an urban legend of like, oh, if you don't return the books, the library policeman's going to come to your house and get your book. And so this grown man kind of hears this story, and it's also kind of parallel to It, because the idea of the library policeman, it just becomes like what you're most afraid of. So there's a theory that It is also the library policeman from the story. There's a fan theory for that. Movies, I mean, there's so many good ones, but I'll say the original Pet Sematary is a classic. Mary Lambert is an amazing director. You had Dale Midkiff, and I'm forgetting everybody's names, but like the guy that played Jug Crandall, who is Herman Munster, he's amazing. Nico Hughes was just like a little baby, and it's such a great movie. Stand By Me, one of the greatest films ever made. That's
Edward Herman. No, that's the dad in Gilmore Girls.
I'm going to remember it at some point. And, of course, It Chapter 1. Dr. Sleep.
Fred Gwynn.
Dr. Sleep is one I loved. I mean, I read the novel, but, like, the movie was so good. Rose the Hat is, like, one of the greatest villains.
She creeps me out.
One of the greatest villains to ever exist. The scene with the baseball boy with Jacob Tremblay is heart-wrenching. Oh my God. But it's so good. Ewan McGregor just knocked it out of the park.
Good.
I wish that movie would have gotten more attention with like...
I think that was another one that just sort of failed at the theater because people were like, what is this? And didn't know how it related.
I think a lot of people were like, why are they making a sequel to The Shining, not knowing that like there was a novel and like being like... And unfortunately, people love the movie The Shining, even though it's nothing like the book.
Yeah,
it's like absolutely
nothing.
Stephen
King hated it.
It's a Stanley Kubrick movie. It's not a Stephen King adaptation.
Yeah.
And Mike Flanagan, who's kind of like the king of Stephen King adaptations right now, or king of horror right now, he did a great job of like kind of tying in the novel, tying in the movie, tying in Dr. Sleep the novel, and making one giant thing. And it's just it's such a great film. And then the last two, Gerald's Game was a good one.
Oh,
that was a rough one to watch. And then, I mean, the one I can't believe we haven't talked about is Misery.
Well, I think I mentioned it when I talked about Dolores Claiborne. Well, along with Kathy Bates.
Yeah, and I have
one I didn't mention from my childhood that I only saw the movie of was Salem's Lot.
Oh God!
I mean, that one freaking creeped me out more than anything. But Let me in.
Yeah, and then I have Dolores Claiborne on here before you even mentioned it. I'm a fan of Stephen King dramas. Like, if Dolores Claiborne's on streaming, we could watch that tonight.
It's on. I think I've seen it.
We're watching it.
Let's do it.
Okay, so our last little topic we will talk about before we get into the plot summary.
Okay.
So it uses your fears to kind of... the way it's described in the novel, and the way I even think they described it in Welcome to Derry, is that it feeds off of human flesh, and fear is like the salt added to the meat. It makes us taste better. Gotcha. So when he eats us when we're scared, it's like eating a seasoned steak, a well-seasoned steak. So that's why he usually targets kids, because kids are more likely to be scared. They have a bigger imagination. They're scared of more things. If you lived in Derry, and we're never gonna, it's not real, so we're okay. But if we lived in Derry and it was if we were kids during a cycle, an It cycle, is there, what do you think he would use to scare you? Like, what were some of the things that you were scared of as a kid?
Well,
it could be phobias. It could be anything.
I'll be really honest, and I know people will be listening to this going, I call bullshit or whatever on you. I wasn't really afraid of a lot of things as a kid, and I think it was early exposure to stuff like this.
Yeah.
I mean, like I've mentioned, whatever was at the drive-in, my parents would take us to see. So I saw things like It's Alive. And,
yeah, but you're scared of like frogs and lizards.
well,
and
that
stuff.
didn't develop until like I was like 11 after going to
that's
Honduras.
Still it
well, I
age.
know, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, those weren't to me inherent fears.
Yeah.
That one was because like I went to Honduras and I tripped over a frog that was like the size of my head. I had never seen
Yeah.
a frog like that. I mean, you can ask my sister. We used to pick up frogs
Mm-hmm.
in our front yard and put them in buckets. So that was like a fear that sort of developed only because of that trip.
Yeah.
Another, I will say, a fear that I sort of had that developed because of something that had happened. A little boy in our neighborhood was playing on the levees with his dog, and I think he threw like a stick into the river, and his dog went in after it, and he went in to save his dog. He drowned and the dog lived. And I remember hearing, and he was a twin actually. And
Yeah.
he lived around the corner from us. And I just remember hearing that story and never really realizing that a kid like my age could die, and the river was something that could have killed him.
Yeah.
It really like enlightened me in that way. And I was pretty young. I want to say I was like 8 or 9 when that happened. Again, if my sister might be listening to this, she will probably remember. And his name was, it was twins, and one was Roy and one was Ray. And so I just remember that happening, and not developing a fear of water per se, but just the fear of knowing that, we're all infallible. We all could die, like no matter what age we are. And that kind of awakened my senses to that.
Okay.
And it did, I don't want to say it made me fearful of death, but it really made me aware. So I think that could have been something that Pennywise could have used against me, the thought of people close to me dying or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably the frog thing. And again, that was really strictly like, I just found them grotesque. So the thought of like a million frogs on me would probably have led me to a heart attack or something. And then the fear of per se dying always stresses me out, makes me sad. People around me that I love that happening to. I think Pennywise could definitely use those against me if he needed to. What about you? What are your fears?
Ooh, I was scared of a lot of stuff when I was a kid.
Oh, okay.
I think horror toughened me up a little bit, but I would say for most of my childhood, I was scared of a lot of things. I was just a very easily scared, very gullible kid. And I would say probably my first real fear was dolls. I think dolls kind of freaked me out. It was a lot of it had to do with Child's Play. I saw that my mom, I think I told the story before, but like my mom it was when Child's Play first came out on like HBO or one of those types of channels. And I walked in on the scene where Catherine Hicks is like, talk to me, damn it, I'm going to throw you into the fire. And then that's when he comes alive. I like walked in at that moment. I just remember like just standing there. My mom was like, get out. My mom was like, leave, And I was terrified. I had a My Buddy doll. I would not go over to, if I knew someone had like dolls at their house, I like would not go over to their house. If I knew someone had a My Buddy doll or a kid's sister or even like a Cabbage Patch doll at their house, I would not go over there. Like I'm not even kidding. Like I was terrified of dolls for not a long time, but like probably like all of like kindergarten. Probably I was like terrified of dolls. And then I saw this. It was this. I don't remember how old I was. It was when I was like one of those late night TV things where I was watching TV by myself really late at night, and I watched this. I don't know if it was like a TV movie. I've tried finding it later in life. Sometimes I'm like, did I just make this up in my head? But like, I don't think I did. It was a TV movie of some kind where a guy was being stalked by a mime. And he was like, and then there was a scene where he was like, the guy was like in bed. He had like helped, he had like gotten mugged or something. The mime was like getting mugged or something like that. And the guy like helped him and saved him and was like, here's some money or whatever. and the mime just kind of just like followed him home, but he was a mime, so he like didn't talk. So it was
Okay.
just like, and he had like the face makeup and everything, and he was basically like, there was a scene where the guy was like in bed and he like rolled over and looked out his window. The mime's just like standing in the window.
Oh, Jesus.
And
Yeah.
my house in Central that I grew up in, we had those big bay windows in the kitchen that didn't have curtains or anything, that faced out our backyard. And our backyard was like this big. It was like on a little hill that sloped down, and then there was like a little pond in the back
I was
of
gonna say,
my
wasn't
backyard.
it like woods behind
It
your
was
house?
all woods. Like I was
Yeah.
surrounded by woods, and
Yeah.
when you looked out, and there were no street lights. Like when you looked out
was
into
dark.
my backyard, it was pitch black. And so I would have nightmares of not just a mime, just in general, of just like walking through my kitchen and there just being like a face, and I could only see the face. Like, and so I was really scared of like, I guess just like outside threats of like a home invasion or
I'm always
a
afraid of that.
robber
Yeah.
of some kind, a stalker of some kind. Like I was always kind of scared of that. The list goes on and on. Things I was scared of. I was just in general scared of the dark as a kid, and I always had to have a light on. I think that's still why I'm not scared of the dark now, but I think that's why I kind of have to fall asleep to like the TV being on, because I've spent so much of my life falling asleep with a light on. So like I think that's why I'm not necessarily scared of the dark anymore.
I know, because we have a TV in our room after you moved in.
Yeah.
I did not have a TV in the room.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, I thought of one, and
Okay.
it's kind of fitting to our TV show today, and it is clowns.
Yes.
So mine also stems from an experience, and that was the infamous Little House on the Prairie
oh my god.
rape, child molestation
the
episode.
you talked about, it was the first time I ever cut something out of an episode. Yeah.
And
I
yes.
was like, what's your favorite episode of Little House on the Prairie?
Well, it's not my favorite episode,
I know,
but it's
but
the
that
one
was
that
the
was
question.
most traumatizing.
I had
to me.
asked Anna a question. So this is Little House on the Prairie. This is like our
Early,
one of
first
our
month.
first few months of doing the show. And we were going down memory lane, and I was like, what were your favorite episodes of Little House on the Prairie? And you declared this is not one of your favorites, but in true Anna fashion,
I go down this
you go down the dark road. You go down the dark path.
that impacted me.
Right. So you can go ahead and
So
yeah.
I will say it was
forgot about
sadly the rape episode. If anyone's watched it, it's where Albert is dating this little girl in town, and she is the daughter of this older guy, and it comes to find the blacksmith has been raping her, and she gets pregnant, and it's this whole big deal. But when he's raping her, he uses a clown mask, and the scene cuts, and you see him in the clown mask, and then you see the clown mask on the floor after like all the terrible things happened in the end. But a lot of people in like my age, a lot of people assume that we don't like clowns because of Poltergeist that came out in the early 80s.
Yeah.
But this was in the 70s, and it really affected my enjoyment of clowns. I've never been a huge circus person to begin with, but after that Little House on the Prairie scene, and then was sealed the deal with Poltergeist, I was like, clowns can just get the F out.
Yeah.
Like, I do not like clowns. So that could have also impacted why I, was a quote unquote fan of it. Was like, it only solidified my disdain for clowns because they're evil. So yeah, I totally forgot about my Little House on the Prairie rant that I went on back when we first started the pod. But yeah, so that's another one. But again, it was a fear that was brought out because of truly that episode, and then furthered with the whole Poltergeist movie, and then obviously it and Pennywise and whatnot. So yeah, craziness.
I was also scared of clowns, and it had nothing to do with Poltergeist. It had nothing to do with it.
Or Little House on the Prairie.
Or Little House on the Prairie. Because I've only seen clips of. I've only seen like pictures of like this of that. I had heard of that episode before you talked about it, but yeah, I was scared of clowns because there was a film back in the day called Clown House. I'm not going to get into it because the director was a pedophile. Yeah, and it was Sam Rockwell's first movie.
Oh, wow.
Which is crazy. He played the oldest brother, but it was about a little boy named Casey who was terrified of clowns. And he had two older brothers. It was Jeffrey and I can't remember Sam Rockwell's name. and they go to their parents are out of town. They go to the circus to try and like help Casey like get over his fear of clowns. What ends up happening is that 3 people from the local insane asylum escape from the insane asylum, and they, for some reason, decide to murder these circus clowns and disguise themselves as circus clowns, I guess not to be seen by policemen who are trying to track them down. And they decide to stalk little Casey and follow him home. And there's this one scene where he's like walking back from a convenience store, and he's like racing his brother. His brother gets like far ahead of him, so he's walking by himself. And then you just see the silhouette of the clown just following him. And it was one of the most it was a movie that like it didn't like give me nightmares. It just made me like not like clowns. I don't know if it was necessarily like a fear of clowns. I used to always make the joke, I'm not I'm not afraid of clowns. I just want to know where they are at all times. Like it's not necessarily that I'm afraid of them. I just don't want to be around them. And when I watched it, I think by then I was kind of over my thing with clowns. And I think when I finally saw Poltergeist for the first time, by then I was just kind of like, oh, that's not really not that scary of a scene.
Gotcha.
I love Poltergeist. Nothing wrong with it. But yeah. But a fear that I had as a kid, and I'll talk about this, then we can get into the plot summary. I realized that this was a lot more common with kids when I got older, but at the time, I felt like I was weird for having this phobia. I would have this recurring nightmare that there were these people that replaced my parents, and I was the only one who knew or who could tell, and no one believed me, and no one would listen to me. And I remember there was one dream specifically. It was when my dad lived in his townhouse off of Perkins Road, and it was me and my sister, and this guy comes in, and he's like, hey, I'm home, and I'm just like, who are you? And he's just like, what are you talking about? And Sarah, it was in my dream, she was like, what are you talking about, Jeff? That's Dad. I'm like, no, that's not. I was just like, that's not Dad. He was like, yes, I am. And then there was this moment where like
Stepford parents.
Exactly. And there was this moment in the dream that I will never ever forget, because I don't know why, but like it's one of the random dreams that I just never forgot as an adult. At one point I was just like, you're a liar, you're not my dad. And there was this moment where he like gives me this look, and it was like this almost this like this look of like, I'm going to murder you look. It was like this very like evil, sinister look, and then just like snapped back in and started pretending like he was my dad. And I'm like, you're not my dad. I just remember screaming that, and I would wake up, and I had that dream so many times. Like, and it was usually my dad. Sometimes it would be my mom, but it was mostly my dad. And I would also have nightmares where I would wake up and I would go to my dad's, because in my dad's townhouse, it was an upstairs 2-bedroom where it was 2 bedrooms and there was a bathroom in the middle that had 2 doors.
Jack and Joe.
Yeah. And so I remember I would have a dream where I would wake up and I would walk through the bathroom to go wake my dad up and be like, hey, I had a bad dream or something. And he would turn around and it would be the person pretending to be my dad. And I had that dream constantly. And I found out later that is like a kind of a common thing. I don't know how common it is exactly, but that this is like maybe it's like a divorced kid thing or maybe something like that. I don't know. But live, I got a text message from Nick Peroni.
Wow. His ears are burning. What did Nick say?
Oh yeah, he had a feeling. He said he had a feeling that it was going to be, because when we announced what our theme was going to be for the girls episode.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Hey,
Nick. All right, let's get into this plot summary. So for 2025 for best of 2025, we're not going to get too detailed into the plot summaries because these shows are still new.
We're trying not to give away any spoilers or anything.
Yeah.
And believe me, it is so hard because this was so good.
All of it.
Like,
yeah.
And I did love how HBO, shout out to HBO. If you don't have a season 2 HBO, I'm cutting you off.
Uh-oh.
But they released episode by episode each
week by week, which I miss so much.
And it really made you want to see it. Like, I was like, you would get home and we're like, and that's when you worked your doubles on Sundays. I was like, we're staying up to watch it. You know, like, usually we're ready for bed, but I was like, we're watching. I don't care how tired you are. And you're like, of course we are. So.
Yeah, I would literally be thinking about it all day. I would just be like, it's Derry night.
Yes.
All right, welcome to Derry. Plot summary. So I loved that the pilot. Usually the episode is pilot, but it's the pilot for Welcome to Derry. I don't know why. I just thought that was funny. I don't think I've ever seen that. Super random. All right. A young boy named Matty sits at a movie theater, sucking noisily on his pacifier. An usher who knows he did not pay for a ticket calls him over. With his cover blown, Matty rushes out of the screening room and hides in the lobby behind a cardboard display. Not mentioned in here, but he was watching The Music Man, which is kind of a really good parallel for Pennywise in general, because there is a little bit of a Pied Piper aspect to The Music Man. There, two theater employees, Ronnie and Hank Grogan, see him. They are kind people, and Ronnie helps Matty hide. He eventually escapes the theater and tries to leave the town by hitchhiking. A family, we're going to put that in heavy quotes, picks him up on the outskirts of Derry. They appear happy, but this cheerfulness hides a disturbing nature. Despite driving away, they inexplicably find themselves heading back into the center of town. The family begins a strange chant. The mother then gives birth to a grotesque mutant baby.
In the car,
which immediately flies wildly around the car. I am summarizing this the best that I can. It is the most insane thing. If you can get through this scene, you can get through the rest of the you can get through the rest of the show.
Totally, because again, if my sister is listening, I asked her if she watched it, and she was like, yeah, I turned it off at the baby
scene. So many people
scene.
stopped at that scene, and I'm like,
oh my God,
the first two,
get past it.
The first two episodes are really the only like hardcore horror, and then the rest are just kind of like, it's still horror, but yeah. So yeah, the mutant baby, it looks like one of those cherub angels, but it's not rotted and grotesque kind of thing. The creature targets Matty, and his pacifier is pulled from his mouth, flying through the air and down into a sewer drain. So, bye-bye, Matty.
Bye, Matty.
4 months later, the town of Derry is considered a quiet place in Maine, though it experiences occasional strange events. Two soldiers, Paulie and Major Leroy Hanlon, arrive at the local airbase after serving in Korea. The base is considered a key defense site against the threat of Russia. During a briefing, the men learn of a restricted warehouse for special projects. Major Hanlon, raised on a farm, is a natural pilot and a decorated soldier. That night, he and Polly confront masked intruders who demand the specifications for a military aircraft. Meanwhile, the memory of Matty's death lingers. A quiet boy named Teddy Uris, so if you recognize the last name Uris, that is Stan Uris's uncle of It Chapter 1 and 2. A quiet boy named Teddy Uris thinks about it often. He explains that Matty had few friends. So Matty came from like he had an abusive dad. I think the mom just like kind of looked the other way at it, and everyone kind of knew that Matty had like a really rough home life. Everyone just assumes that either his dad killed him or Matty ran away. Those are kind of the two options right now. He explains that Matty had few friends. Teddy and his outspoken friend Phil, who is obsessed with aliens and nuclear war, were paid in candy to attend Matty's birthday party. So they were kind of like his pity friends. Matty was also fond of a girl named Lily, who was cruelly bullied by other students and called Loony Lily. As a prank, some girls placed pickle jars in her locker. This is a particularly painful taunt because Lily's father died in an accident at a jarring plant. She blames herself for his death and will not visit his grave. There are also disturbing rumors that his body parts were found in jars across Maine.
It was so bad.
Lily earned her nickname after a stay at a local facility called Juniper Hills, which is referenced kind of all throughout Stephen King, mostly in It and Castle Rock, which is another great TV show if y'all have never seen it. Great first and second season. Lily visits Phil and Teddy, claiming she heard Matty's voice in the pipes the previous night. They dismiss her story, and later, Teddy has a terrifying experience when his lampshade flickers, and the lamp itself appears into human skin. I gotta talk about this real quick. So there was this joke a really, really long time ago on Family Guy, where the joke was that Stephen King can kind of turn anything into a novel. Like, no matter how ridiculous it sounds, he never seems to run out of ideas, like that whole joke. So the joke was This is so funny that it was like, oh, there was a joke where Stephen King's like pitching his new novel, and it's very clear he doesn't have any ideas.
Right.
And so he's like looking around the room, and he's like, there's an evil lamp monster. And he grabs the lamp, and he's like, and the lamp comes to life, and it'll kill you. And so everyone's just like, it finally happened. Like it came true in a Stephen King adaptation. Someone clipped that scene from Family Guy and then showed the scene from Welcome to Derry. And they were like, it finally happened. A lamp monster in a Stephen King thing. So that's actually really funny. And I don't think I realized until someone pointed it out. So his brother, who is Canon, it's Stan's future dad, his brother dismisses it as a nightmare, but Teddy is convinced something is wrong. Now believing Lily, Teddy and Phil go with her to the library to research Maddie's death. Phil is forced to bring his younger sister Susie with him. Their investigation leads them to Ronnie at the theater. Ronnie is shocked to learn that the children have also been experiencing strange visions and hearing ghostly music from the Music Man, the very film Maddie was watching. The group sneaks into the theater where Ronnie projects the film. Inside the movie, an apparition of Maddie appears, cradling the mutant baby, directly accusing the group of it being their fault that he was gone. Following this accusation, the mutant baby creature appears and launches a violent attack, killing everyone present in the theater. Lily is the sole survivor of the massacre, rescued by Ronnie Grogan, who manages to pull her to safety. The episode ends with Lily screaming as she sees herself holding Susie's dismembered arm.
Oh my God.
So we get a total bait and switch. We are being led to believe that this is the new Losers Club, that these are going to be the new main characters.
Right.
You have a very familiar with Teddy and Phil. It's a very familiar like Richie and Eddie. In the first one, where you kind of have one who never stops talking, and you have another one who's like very like level-headed. And then you have Lily and Ronnie, who, and then Susie, who's kind of like the little sister. And then complete bait and switch. 3 of the 5 die at the end of the episode. Not a huge spoiler considering all that happens in Welcome to Derry for the next 7 episodes. But still, it was very shocking. I was not expecting it.
Nope. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, I'm just like, because I knew Lily and Ronnie were big parts of the show. But yeah, I just assumed the two boys were in it too. But yeah, that was probably the best I could do with summarizing it without giving like too much away. I mean, if you have HBO Max and you haven't watched Welcome to Derry yet, I don't know what you're doing. You need to go watch it right now.
Right now.
You need to wait till this episode ends and then go watch Welcome to Derry. But yeah, it's an amazing show. Even if you're not a horror person
or a Stephen King person,
it's
a good show.
You don't really need to be. It's just a great show, and I will say this is my favorite show of 2025. This might be entering one of my favorite shows of all time. I just loved every aspect of it. The kids are, when they introduce Rich when they introduce Rich and Will and Marge, when they kind of become a part of the group, their dynamics were so good, and they were such amazing actors. And
I was so emotional.
I just remember the last episode. There's a scene in the last episode where Marge is kind of giving like a little monologue, and I remember we're both crying, and I'm just like, where did they find these kids?
I know.
I'm just
You're like, where is she from?
They're so good, and so Marge was a recurring character in the Gilded Age.
Yep.
And
she's great.
It's really funny that I kind of just forgot, and
HBO Family. I think I told you. I was like, that's the chick from Gilded Age, the daughter.
Yeah. So I can't recommend this show enough. It's so good. It's so well made. I can't imagine a world where season 2 doesn't happen, but you never know.
HBO.
I think with all the bidding wars going on right now, I think there's just a lot going on. But I mean, like, come on, you can just renew it, HBO. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Do it.
All right. Okay. You think that wraps this one up?
I think it does. Good
All right,
episode.
I got to talk about Stephen King for an hour, so I'm a happy boy.
Woohoo!
All right, that wraps up this episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That way you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. You can also follow us on Instagram at WeJudgePilotPod. We're also on Facebook and Threads. Leave us a comment, suggest a show for us to watch, or leave some emojis in the comments. What you got?
All right, of course, I have to have the red balloon and the clown.
How could you not?
I have any of like the military people. I have the blueberry to represent Maine.
Oh, good one.
The trees for the forest, the movie, and the ticket for the movie theater.
Is Maine known for blueberries?
Oh, yeah.
I remember the minor thing in Stand By Me where Ray Brower went to go pick blueberries.
Yeah, they're
but
famous, I think. For
I never knew that.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
I just learned something.
The car and the baby, the candy and the birthday hat, cucumbers for the pickles, the books to represent the library, the arm for the detached arm. And then I will also say the numbers 2 and 7 for
Nice.
27. And then for us, an 8 and a heart, because tomorrow is our 8-year anniversary.
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, we are going to head out, but we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.